Today we have Braydon Barrett on the podcast. He owns Look Like You Lift, where he helps men drop 30 pounds and double their strength without restrictive diets or doing cardio. Braden has been featured in media outlets like Fox News Channel, NBC, CBS, CNET, SeekersTime, NewTheory, Disrupt, and Digital Buzz. He's developed a strong presence on social media, and he currently has 218,000 followers on TikTok alone as of the time of this recording, which is February of 2023. Braden is known as the voice of reason in the strength and conditioning community, as well as having his no BS, no fluff delivery. If you don't already follow him, definitely go follow him. I personally follow him. He posts tons of good educational and actionable content across his platforms. Braden also practices what he preaches. He's been a competitive powerlifter, competitive strongman, and he once lost over 60 pounds of fat himself in 6 months. And today he stays in very good shape as well. It's a pleasure to have him on. Braden, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to ask is, I've always really liked the name of your program, Look Like You Lift. Such a great name, and to be transparent, that kind of describes how I personally want to look as well. So how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, so it kind of goes along with my story. I came from a strength background, so started with powerlifting, got into strongman, and if you know anything about strongman, like we got to be big and we got to be strong. So you got to eat big to get big. So I had to eat a lot of food to get there, and eventually got to the point where I ate so much that I didn't really look like I lifted. I was really strong. I was a state level competitor, but I didn't look like it. And so I figured, like, okay, there's got to be like a balance here of looking like you lift, but also being really strong. So going through my own trial and error, trying to figure out how to do it. And then also through my own transformation, Look Like You Lift was born. And that's essentially what we teach guys. There's a little bit of a disconnect where you have people on one side of the spectrum who want to get really, really strong, but end up having to, look kind of fluffy and look overweight in doing so. And then you have on the other side, you have guys who want to look really, really good, but due to some of the methods out there, they end up getting really weak and kind of actually just getting scrawny. And so we kind of marry the best of those worlds together. And that's where Look Like You Lift came from.
Awesome. Well, good story. So yeah, so I know, let's kind of, expand on that. I know everyone looks at you today, you're this big, strong, successful fitness person, but it wasn't always that way. There's always a story behind all of it. So
Sure.
Let's start from the beginning. What were things like growing up for you, and how did you get into fitness?
Yeah, so I got into fitness after high school. I worked on a farm all through, junior high, high school. And so strength was like a big deal working on a farm. And I was one of like the weaker guys. And I really wanted to, out of my own vanity, I was like, I just want to get strong so I can like haul more bales of hay than anybody else on the on the team. So I got into that, found the sport of powerlifting, and due to where I was living at the time and getting into college, I had a great network of strength and conditioning coaches, powerlifting coaches. And so I was able to work underneath them and intern with them to continue my education and to learn more, not just with schooling, but also with like practical application. At the time, I was really just interested in working for myself, just like getting myself as strong as possible. But I started finding a passion to helping other people get really strong at the same time, because I knew how it impacted my life. And I thought it was really cool seeing how strength impacted other people's lives. And then fast forward a little bit, found this stupid sport called strongman, which I call it stupid because it's literally a contest to see who can hurt themselves the fastest with the most amount of weight. So I got into that. And again, due to like where I was located, some of the world's strongest men were training in the area that I was training in. So they took me under their wing.
And what area was that?
Utah County.
Okay.
Yeah. So Van Hatfield, Kevin Ferris, like some of like the Jordan Larson, like some big guys. So they took me under their wing and they taught me everything that I know. And I went really far with strongman. And at the same time, I was continuing my education in biochemistry, and I was learning more. And then I eventually actually like left school because I realized I got the knowledge that I needed, and then I needed more knowledge that school wasn't giving me. So I actually turned to investing a lot of money into seminars, into courses, workshops, one-on-ones, internships. And that's essentially where my my own personal passion for fitness came from, how I got really strong, got really muscular, and became really competitive. But at the same time, as I was growing physically, I was also growing intellectually, and that's kind of where I came from.
Yeah, for sure. So you competed at a high level. So what level did you get to in strongman?
I took the it was actually a tie for Utah's strongest man.
Okay.
So I tied with one guy. We eventually had to do a tiebreaker where it was a sandbag carry for time. So you carry this 200-pound sandbag and you heave it up onto your chest, and like you go back and forth, and whoever lets go of the bag or whoever gives up, took the second place. I wasn't giving up. Like my arms are burning, and my arms are like I was so determined to win that I blacked out. I just passed out. So,
Wow.
but so yeah, I was this close. So, but we'll try it again some other time.
That's crazy. That's crazy. What year was that?
2017.
2017. So he tied for Utah's strongest man, obviously doing really well in that. And then, kind of as you alluded to previously, you kind of felt that it was causing you injury. You didn't necessarily look how you wanted to look. So, yeah, how did you decide to go then? Let's kind of expand on that from like Utah's strongest man tied. And then now, like, you obviously don't even do competitive strongman. So, like, what happened after that Utah's strongest man for you? How did it go from there?
Yeah, so I kept competing and I kept training for strongman for a long time after that, but eventually got to a point where, like I said, the notion of any kind of strength sport is you got to eat big to get big, and so I had to eat a lot of food, and there came a point where I developed high blood pressure. I started getting like pre-diabetic symptoms, so like diabetes was on the forefront. Struggling with like energy issues, a little bit of sleep apnea. And because of all these health issues that were coming up, my strength was actually starting to diminish. Okay. Like, there's only so much that you can do. You can only redline for so long before it actually starts to it starts to go backwards. So that's when I was like, all right, you know what? I need to lose weight. And at the same time too, like I just didn't like how I looked. I'm here trying to be a face on social media, and we've all seen them, the people who call themselves professionals but they look like they need a trainer. I was that guy. I looked like I needed a trainer. So I decided to start losing weight, and I said to myself what I'm sure everybody says at one point is like, oh, it's a caloric deficit, like how hard could it be, right? So I tried for like a year and a half trying to lose weight, but every time that I tried to lose weight, I lost a lot of strength. And as a strength athlete, that's something that's really important to me because I worked really hard for that. I don't want to lose it. So year and a half goes by. I'm trying to lose weight and not lose strength, and didn't lose. I lost like 5 pounds, right? So I knew something had to change. I needed help. I needed professional help. And so I turned to the bodybuilders. I turned to the bodybuilding coaches to help me out with this. Dr. Scott Stevenson was very, very helpful in putting together something with me to help me lose this weight and maintain my strength. Because when you think of it, bodybuilders have pretty much mastered the art of body composition, retaining as much muscle as you possibly can and losing the fat as much as you possibly can. So hired some help, ended up losing about 65 pounds in 6 months. And the strength that I lost was marginal, just due to limited energy resources and smaller cross-sectional areas. But that strength came back when I reversed and put the food back in. So that's kind of how it happened.
Wow, so quite the story, right? You kind of doing it on your own for about a year and a half. So you had obviously, after strongman, you kept competing or kept training for it. You had developed high blood pressure. You said diabetes was on the forefront, like some potential health issues, noticing your strength went down. You were trying to do like a calorie deficit yourself, wasn't working. Then you hire a coach, and then you see results. And you were, correct me if I'm wrong, so you were already a personal trainer at this point, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was the personal trainer in the sense of just helping guys get stronger. I wasn't helping guys try to lose weight or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I kind of have a similar story myself of even after I was a personal trainer, I hired a coach who helped me too, so that I could really walk the walk in addition to talking the talk. So I can
Right.
totally resonate with that as well. Um, so what were some things like you said you lost, sorry, you said it was 60 or 65 pounds?
65 pounds.
So 65 pounds, you said it was in 6 months.
Mhm.
So what were things that you did differently working with the Dr. Stevenson versus what you were doing on your own?
So a lot. Number one was taking it slow. I say taking it slow. I lost 65 pounds in 6 months. That's a lot, and that's actually really fast. But when we're talking about weight loss, we want to try to do it slow, especially if you're trying to retain muscle mass. You want to do it slow. So a target that I try to tell people is less than 1% per week. So if you're 200 pounds, if you're losing 2 pounds per week, that's probably too fast. Right. So I had to slow things down, realize it was going to take a while. And so we didn't do as drastic of a caloric deficit as I was doing before. So that was the first thing. The second thing was frequent diet breaks. So this is something I teach all the time too, is the importance of diet breaks. So um, bringing calories back to maintenance for a period of time can be very beneficial, both physiologically, but most importantly psychologically. It gives you a psychological break of having to like stick to something so rigid. The third thing was training. So when you have high food and you have high rest and you have high energy recovery resources, the amount of frequency and the amount of volume that your body can handle and adapt from is much greater. And so my volume was really high, and I tried to maintain that kind of volume when I was losing weight, and that it just wasn't working. So by design, I had to reduce the volume. I had to titrate volume down as we got lighter and as we got leaner and as the calories kept dropping. So that was a big thing. I eventually got down to, so like when I was in the very last few pounds of my cut and like we're almost done, I was like 1 or 2 sets per exercise per day. Right. So whereas it was like 6 or 7 sets, now we're down to like one. So that was the big one. Number 4 was cardio. So we didn't use prolonged form of cardio, which a lot of people do. They'll do like 1 hour of fasted cardio in the morning. They'll do their workout and they'll do another hour of cardio. So form follows function, and we can talk about the physiology behind this if you want. But instead of using cardio to facilitate the deficit, what we did instead is we just focused on walking more, just staying overall just more active throughout the day, standing more, going on more frequent walks, as opposed to dedicated bouts of cardio. And then we used bouts of hard cardio, very similar to what we do in strongman anyway. So it's literally part of our sport to do hard cardio, sprinting with heavy loads, picking things up and getting as many reps as we possibly can. So that those forms of cardio, what CrossFitters might call metabolic conditioning, that was really useful because again, that form follows the function of the energy substrate that the muscle is doing anyway. So that was really useful. So yeah, 4 things. So slowing it down, realizing it's going to take longer than you want, frequent diet breaks, reducing volume throughout the cut, and then number 4 is not using prolonged forms of cardio, rather using hard cardio and just staying overall more active throughout the day.
All right. Well, love all those takeaways. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of those that you just talked about here. So the first one is a diet break. And a lot of people I know are very resistant to that because they're like, well, I want to lose weight. Why would I want to do a diet break? If I
Sure.
don't do it, won't I just lose weight faster? So can you explain diet breaks in a little bit more detail to people?
100%. Yeah. So we already know that the fundamental rule to lose weight is we need to be in energy deficit. We need to consume fewer calories than we are expending. Um, but what I have seen both anecdotally, empirically, and from some good research that is out there right now, that any weight loss that is so when you lose weight more than 10% of total body weight, we start to see negative health effects start to occur. We start to see metabolic adaptations start to occur. And we then also start to see the weight past 10% comes back faster. So let's say I have someone who's 300 pounds. If they lose their first 30 pounds and they continue to keep going, it's more likely that that weight past 30 pounds is going to come back with a vengeance. So but also you might notice, I hear this all the time where people are like, man, I can lose the first 25 pounds. I can lose the first 20. I can lose the first 30 pounds. But after that, I get stuck. Okay, well, it's probably 10% of your total body weight, right? So we start to see all of these strange things happening around 10%. And so the solution at this point is not to continue to drop calories. The solution at this point is, hey, let's actually give your body a break, because losing weight, going catabolic, putting yourself in a controlled starvation state is stressful. It can cause it's a stressful environment for your body to be in. Stress hormones are elevated, sex hormones are suppressed. So it serves purpose, just like with training, how we deload. We like to deload from going on the diet for a little bit. So we bring calories back to maintenance for a period of time. We see positive metabolic adaptations occur. We start to see more more positive biofeedback occur. Biggest thing is psychological relief, because I can diet for 12 weeks and take a break. Whereas if I have to diet for 52 weeks, that sucks. So I'm a proponent of every 10% of losing weight, take a break for as long as you need. Usually you can get away with 4 to 6 weeks, and then we can resume and then lose another 10%. Because at the end of the day, I'm interested in not just losing the weight. I'm interested in how long can you keep the weight off. And I want you to lose these 100 pounds, 50, 60, 100 pounds, and I want you to keep it off for the rest of your life. So I've found that breaking every 10% is a really key component to that.
Absolutely. No, I'm a proponent of that as well, and I believe that's definitely important. So, kind of along those same lines, like how do you just, I mean, obviously part of it is just education. Like when you're coaching someone on that, like how do you educate them on like, well, you don't want to lose weight as fast as possible, because that's what most people see in the mainstream media. Is it's like you see all these
Sure.
people losing like 40 pounds in 4 months, and 30 pounds in 90 days, and they're like, oh, I should be able to do that. Like how do you shift someone's mind to like more of that long-term approach, and how did you shift your own?
So it's a good question, and it's still something that I struggle with my guys all the time. I think the biggest thing is, look, you've tried to do it the fast way for the last 15, 20 years. Is it working? No. Either if it's working and you gain it back, or it doesn't work at all. Okay. So how about we try something different? How about we try doing it slow? Let's just give it a try. Just humor me here. Okay. You tried for the last 15 years anyway. What's another year of doing a little bit slower? Let's just see what happens. So it's a little bit of a leap of faith in that aspect, but also there's a little bit of education that comes into it of, look, the things that you see on social media, people who losing it really, really fast, like me losing 65 pounds in 6 months, that's really freaking fast. I would never recommend that to anybody. But unfortunately it sells on social media. Okay. It's attractive. It's shiny object. And so it gets people to click, and teaching my clients to just be more aware of that the reason why it looks like this, the reason why it seems too good to be true, is because it probably is. So I think education is just a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I can relate as well when we're talking to our clients too. It's always, that's what's seen out there. That's what's, like you said, that's what's shiny. That's what's sexy and that's what's, most convenient is, oh, I want to lose it as fast as possible. But in reality, like you said, it is important to take it a bit slower. So another thing that you mentioned as well is that you switch from doing like, higher cardio to focusing more on walking and daily movement. So a lot of people like don't realize the benefits of walking and daily movement, obviously for health, but also in terms of like body composition. So how do you explain to someone like, how is walking beneficial for even body composition?
Yeah, 100%. Well, walking, especially postprandial walks, have so many benefits to them that, I'll put it to you this way: you can't afford to not be taking your walks. The biggest, some of the biggest benefits that come from using walking for weight loss is, number one, anybody can do it. Having to run for cardio, most people can't do that. And also that beats your joints up. And also that sucks. Okay. There are some people who are out there who love running, but that's not who I'm talking to. Walking, anybody can do it. You can do it inside, you can do it outside. It's very versatile. I can give you a dedicated amount of steps, and you can fit in those steps however you want. Some people can do that in 2 or 3 bouts. Some people need to do that in 5 or 6 bouts. So you have a lot of flexibility. It's very versatile. You can do it inside, outside. There's some like resources online where you can break up your how many step equivalent could be for like going on a bicycle, right? I love to longboard, so how many steps is equivalent to longboarding, right? So like it's very versatile, and it's, anybody can do it. And biggest thing is it's low impact. It's low intensity. That's exactly what we want, because the more intense the form of cardio is, and we've seen this with the study that came out in 2021, we can talk about it if you want, but the more intense the cardio is, the more suppressive it is on basal metabolic rates later. We don't want that. Okay. So we want to make sure that everything is running on all cylinders, and the cardio is used more so as health benefits as opposed to trying to facilitate a greater deficit with it. So overall daily activity is, I think, the key to this, not just using dedicated bouts of cardio and not just walking. Like I mentioned, just standing more. I mean, we're talking with people who work at desk jobs who sit for 8 hours. They come to work, they clock in, and they sit for 8 hours. Well, how about if I can just get you to stand up every 30 minutes and do a 5-minute walk every hour? That's huge. That is a huge improvement. I'm not going to give you 30 minutes of cardio every day when I can just get you to move a little bit throughout the day. That's going to be way bigger. We're going to see a much greater return from that than if I were to just give a dedicated bout of cardio. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's something that's very underrated, is just daily movement, and I'll be transparent. Like, that's something that I'm always working on as well myself, because it's easy to just sit at your desk all day. You get in the zone, you get in the mood, it's like, oh, I got to get up and walk. But
Totally.
like you said, there are definitely a number of benefits to that. So we were kind of continuing the story that we were talking about with your journey. So obviously you dropped the weight with Dr. Stevenson, the 65 pounds in 6 months. So what happens next on your journey after that?
Next thing that happened after that, I decided, hey, you know what? I lost weight. I got some pretty cool photos for a photo shoot. I think I might be able to do this bodybuilding thing. Like, let's give this a shot. So I dedicated like the next year and a half to kind of giving this bodybuilding thing a really good hard effort. Got ready for a competition. I competed back in August. I had a great time. So I have decided to give the next 7 years to going as far in bodybuilding as I possibly can. Dedicated the last 7 years to strongman and powerlifting. I want to do 7 years in bodybuilding, see how far we can go with that. So that's kind of, that brings us to where we are now.
All right. And then how far into that 7 years are you currently?
Like 6 months in. Yeah, we're just getting started.
All right, love it. So let's talk about that then. So how is your training? Like, let's talk about your training. How is your training different than it was?
It's actually really different. So when it comes to strength training, the primary focus is to improve the weight on the bar, increase the weight on the bar on your major lifts. Okay, so as a power lifter, you're a 3-trick pony. You need to be good at your squat, you need to be good at your bench press, you need to be good at your deadlift. Okay, so all of your training is revolving around improving those numbers. Same thing with strongman, logs, stones, axles, making sure that all of those lifts are going up. Bodybuilding, and now I'm still a neophyte here, so I'm not completely versed on this, but from what I've learned and what I read and what I'm working with coaches on, is bodybuilding is different. So we use the weightlifting as the mechanism to trigger muscle growth. We don't use weightlifting as the mechanism to try to increase the weight on the bar. Okay, so it's different. The lifts and the technique are the same, but how we program them and why we're using specific things are different. I'm training more frequently now, training with more volume than I did before. There are more there are more variations of exercises in my programming now. And so, yeah, there's a lot of differences. But I think one of the big reasons why I'm being so responsive to this, and like I'm growing like a weed right now. I think the reason why I'm growing so quickly from this is because, and I've talked about this all the time on TikTok, the reason why I'm responding to this so fast is because of the foundational framework that was laid with strength training. So that's kind of like how it differs.
Nice. So what were you? So you said in August you had competed in a bodybuilding show. What was your weight then, and what is your weight now?
My weight was 187, and I'm actually 208 this morning. So I've only gained like 20 pounds.
Nice.
Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, 20 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So about 19, 20 pounds, or 20 pounds. So so let's walk through like nutrition. So nutrition, eating for like strongman powerlifting versus like eating for bodybuilding. How has that changed?
It's changed a lot. But not because of the nature of the not because of the nature of the sport. I'm taking the things that I'm learning from just eating for overall improvement of body composition and performance, and the laws apply to both bodybuilding and strongman and powerlifting. And I know this because I still work with powerlifting and strongman clients all the time, and my eating principles have changed, and I teach them how to eat healthier and actually improve your health, and at the same time their performance improves. So as far as like eating is concerned, when I was like more ignorant when it came to food, when I was a strongman and a powerlifter, it was kind of like if it fits your macros approach. Like I've got 4,000 calories I got to get in. That means we got to get some frozen pizzas. We got to get some Ben and Jerry's. We might hit up some Mongolian grill for the day. So it was kind of like whatever means necessary to get 4,000 calories. Now we're a little more smart about it. Okay. We need to make sure that micronutrients are in check. We're not dealing with deficiencies. Gut health and digestion plays a big role. So while my calories are similar to where they were back in my strength training days, strength athlete days, the food quality and the quality of my digestion has greatly changed and has also improved.
Awesome. Why don't we expand on that then? So your digestion, gut health, things like that. What are things that's often like a trendy hot topic? Like, it's not a hot topic, but something that people are talking a lot about these days, right? Gut health, improved digestion. What are things specifically that you've done in your nutrition to improve your gut health and digestion?
100%. Yeah. So number one is I guess we can talk about when it comes to like let me back up. So we stick to nutritionally dense foods for the bulk of our diet. Okay. So when it comes to protein sources, we want to stick to nutritionally dense protein sources, highly bioavailable sources of vitamins and minerals. So we primarily have dairy, red meat, and eggs as our protein sources. Yeah, chicken breast and protein powders are fine, but we use those kind of as to fill in the blanks. We don't use them as our primary staples. When it comes to
Can I actually pause you 1 second there, and then we'll continue. So I think a lot of people try to fill up on like just protein powder and protein bars. Like, what are your take on both protein powder and protein bars to supplement the protein?
yeah, so we have to think in terms of good, better, best. Okay, protein powder and protein bars, sure, that's a good option. It's better than nothing. It's better than a Snickers. But the best option is going to be food, primarily like these nutritionally dense sources of food that I'm talking about. Protein is protein. Okay, the protein that you find in a powder is the exact same protein you're going to find in chicken, is the exact same protein you're going to find in steak. But that's not the reason why I tell you to eat that. Okay, so the reason why I say steak, the reason why I say eggs, the reason why I say dairy is because of the calcium, the niacin, the manganese, the zinc, the omegas, the creatine. Like those are the reasons why I want you having those food sources. And also when you're doing protein powders and you're doing protein bars, you're probably not feeling very full from that. I mean, protein powder, that's a liquid calorie. Okay. That doesn't fill you up. Whereas if I can get you having 200 grams of protein from red meat, making steaks each day, that's going to fill you up real good. So you're much more likely to stay compliant when you're feeling full. So that's kind of my stance on that.
Love it. Love it. So let's expand on the gut health digestion thing. So you talked about number one, nutritionally dense foods, and then you had some other things as well. What else have you done to improve your gut health and digestion?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is we can talk more about nutritionally dense foods, and there are some specific foods that we use for gut health, but the biggest thing is just minimizing your processed foods. So the fast food, the frozen goods, and the reason for that is those foods can be loaded with preservatives and seed oils that can cause gastrointestinal distress. And when your gut is feeling gross, when you're feeling gross, you're probably not functioning and performing at your top level. You can't argue with me that having a Little Caesars pizza versus having steak, rice, and a salad, like which one's going to make you feel better? Like having the Little Caesar, you're going to just feel gross. So that's going to be like the biggest thing. And then some foods that we use bone broth for health or gut health. We use Greek yogurt for gut health. We use the dairy. The next thing are vegetables. I try to avoid, basically our diet we follow a low FODMAP diet. So the vegetables, we try to stay from like high sulfuric, high phytic acid, cruciferous vegetables. So broccoli is notorious for wrecking people's guts. Beans, beans, the magical fruit. We try to avoid those. So we try to optimize the veggies that we consume to make sure that it's promoting minimal bloating and you're feeling good from that. So we use spinach, carrots, green beans, these low sulfuric, low phytic acid vegetables. We use those a lot. We try to stay away from high fiber carbohydrate, so high fiber starchy carbohydrate sources. So brown rice, we avoid that. We just do white rice. We do potato. We do sweet potato. We kind of stay away from breads. Nothing's wrong with bread. Like, it's not a demonic thing. It just comes down to like how you feel from that. Most people have a problem with the gluten that is found within wheat. So a good alternative to that is sourdough. Sourdough has the digestive enzymes that help to break it down because it's a fermented dough. So yeah, that kind of like I did my best to kind of summing up how we handled complicated gut health in like a 5 minutes as much as I could.
No, for sure. I love and agree with a lot of that stuff as well. So one thing as well that a lot of people preach is like you want to keep your fiber high for gut health as well. What do
Mhm.
you teach people about fiber? And also, you mentioned like you avoid beans, you avoid a lot of whole grains. So how do you help then people get fiber?
So actually, fiber is really high in the vegetables that I've listed out, but fiber's high in fruit. I mean, we have berries each day, we have oranges each day, pineapple, and those veggie sources that I listed out. Those are um, plenty dense in fiber as well. Mushrooms are high in fiber, so you can use whole wheat. You can use well, actually. So the problem with whole wheat bread is like there's actually not that much fiber in whole wheat when you compare it to a vegetable. And also, when you from a caloric standpoint, like one slice of whole wheat bread, where that's 100 calories, you're getting 2 grams of fiber. I can do a whole handful of spinach that's like 15 calories and 3 or 4 grams of fiber, right? So, yeah, so that's why like you're not going to have a problem hitting your fiber intake by cutting out the whole wheat and the beans because you should be getting in plenty of fruits and plenty of vegetables anyway. So,
For
and then
sure.
if you're still having a hard time getting in your fiber, I see no issue with like using a psyllium husk supplement. Um, like so my requirements, it's 50 grams of fiber, and that's tough to hit sometimes. I'll use like mushroom noodles to hit that sometimes, but sometimes I'll just do a psyllium husk supplement 2 or 3 times a day, and that's fine. So yeah.
For sure. All right, I love all this stuff. And then the next thing, a lot of people are probably going to say is, well, Braden, how do I have time to make all this stuff? I'm super busy. Shouldn't, supplements are way easier. All this stuff's way easier. How do you teach people, or what do you have to say to that?
Well, if you tell me that you don't have time, I want you to go to your phone, and I want you to go to settings, and I want you to click on I think it's called device care. If you click on that, it'll show you the time that you spend on each app on your phone each week. And it's probably safe to say that most of you guys are spending close to what, 15, 16 hours on social media in a week, if you're lucky. Okay. Most of you probably spending more than that. So I don't think the whole I don't have time, I think that's a load of crap. You make time for the things that matter to you. Now we can talk about how to meal prep and how to make this really, really easy and fast, but you first have to just cut the bullshit that no, you definitely have time. You're watching this podcast, you have time. You're watching this on social media, you have time.
Love it, love it. And I can resonate with that as well. That right, we make time for what's important to us. So let's talk about that. What are some, quote unquote, time saving strategies around like meal prep that you use for your clients to make sure that they make this stuff and have it ready for the week?
So your best tool in your arsenal is going to be the Instant Pot. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's essentially like a pressure cooker. It is a lifesaver. So we have the largest model that you can get, and you can do literally anything in it. So we use the Instant Pot two times a week right now, but you can make a whole week's worth of food uh, in the Instant Pot in 1 hour on a Sunday with that one tool. So get an Instant Pot, invest in one. It's awesome. I'm sure you can find them on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, but that's a great tool. The next tool is take advantage of frozen fruits and frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables are so easy to prepare. I mean, at the very least, when you're meal prepping, you can just open up bags of frozen veggies and just dump it in. And then when you microwave your meal for the day, like they're ready to go. So take advantage of frozen veggies, frozen fruits. It's awesome. Um, the biggest thing that I see with people when it comes to meal prepping is meal prepping their meat. That takes the most time. So I have found that, again, using the Instant Pot, we just shred our chicken in the Instant Pot. Dude, I've been shredding chicken with that thing for coming up on 3 years now. I'm never going back. I'm never grilling or cooking chicken breast ever again. When it comes to your red meat, ground beef is a great option. It's very, very versatile. It's very easy to cook. Steaks, you can easily just do that just in your pan. We have a Traeger, so we just do those outside. But yeah, really the biggest thing, that the biggest time spender is just going to come down to your meats. Now the biggest thing too, when it comes to like meal prepping, is anything that you don't eat within 3 days of prepping, make sure that you put in the freezer, because anything that is not consumed within 3 days is going to get gross. So you have a 3-day limit on your food when you put it in your fridge. You have like a month limit if you put it in your freezer. So anything you don't cook within 3 days, throw it in your freezer. It keeps it tasting good when you microwave it. So again, I threw a lot there. So
Yeah.
hope we're doing all right.
No, those are all good ones. Yeah, I haven't actually personally used the Instant Pot myself. I might have to look into that after hearing you talk about this. So we'll see.
Dude, it's a game changer.
Love it, love it. So anything else that we haven't mentioned already that you have personally changed, like either as your philosophy, like obviously maybe how you train people back in 2017, 18, whatever it is, when you were doing strongman, versus how you train people and teach people now? Like what are maybe some other things that you've kind of changed your opinion on over the last couple of years that have helped both you and your clients get better results?
I think the big thing is conditioning. I think conditioning should be in someone's regimen regardless of the goal. Even right now, my goal is we're looking to put on about 50 pounds in 2 years. We still have conditioning in our program. We still have hard cardio. We still are staying as active as possible. More than anything, because like back in 2017, I was of the mantra, if you can stand, sit. If you can sit, lay down. If you can lay down, sleep. Like, you want to minimize your movement as much as possible so you can grow as much as possible. Well, there's actually more health side effects that come along with that, and it's actually inhibiting your ability to perform at your top level when you do that. So I think conditioning, regardless of your goal, regardless of how big or how strong you want to get, I think you should be having some form of hard cardio in your program. You should be walking. You should be moving. I think that's probably like the biggest game changer, both for body composition, but most important, just health, just longevity. Just staying overall active throughout the day is going to be, it's probably like the biggest thing that I'm really glad that I've changed my perspective on.
Love it. So what type of conditioning exercises do you recommend for people that are also joint friendly?
Yeah. So, you have a lot of options, but there are plenty of low impact, hard cardio alternatives out there that you can use. Rowing, cycling, high incline walking, those are all great. Um, Basically, when you're saying like easy on the joints, we want to stay away from things that are like high impact. So jumping when you impact on the ground, that can cause a cascade of impact that we probably want to avoid if we don't need it, if it's not like part of your sport. The hard cardio that me and my clients do, we'll put together metcons, 10 to 15 minutes of just hard events. So again, kind of like strongman events. So pushing a sled, now that I mentioned it, pushing a sled is all concentric. So that's easy on the joints.
Sure.
Pushing sleds, sprinting, like kettlebell swings are pretty good for low impact because you just kind of stay stationary. So yeah, you got some options there. There's actually a lot of low impact options that are out there.
Yeah, for sure. And we used to, when I trained people in person, we used to use sleds a lot because, even for some people who are like really beat up and couldn't do some of the primary lower body exercises too, because like you said, it's all concentric, it's very joint friendly and allows you to train your legs pretty well too.
Yeah.
Love it. Another thing that you have brought up on your social media as well is the importance of sleep. So I know we could go a number of ways on this, but a lot of people are under the impression I just need to grind it out, sleep 5-6 hours a night. There's no way I can get more sleep. I don't have time to get more sleep. Like,
Mhm.
what is your kind of rebuttal to those people on why sleep is so important?
I actually did a post about this yesterday. So sleep is the most important. Sleep is more important than training and nutrition combined. And I get a lot of kickback when I say that. But it's true. We have to think of what is the purpose of training. The purpose of training is to elicit a stress response that we can recover and adapt from. Okay. You're not building muscle in the gym, right? You're building muscle from recovering from what you've done. Okay. So that's the key word is recovery. Same thing with nutrition. Okay. With your nutrition, you're only giving the body the building blocks that it needs to turn that into usable energy resources for recovery. Okay. Again, there's the keyword again right there, recovery. So both of those are null and void if we are not getting rest. We're essentially stepping over nickels. We're stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels. Okay. So if I can take you and I can actually minimize, I can actually reduce your days in the gym, reduce your training, maybe take you down to like 2 or 3 days of training per week, increase food a little bit, and focus more on getting high quality rest, you will see more gains. You will see more results than the other way. You're also going to feel better. You're also more likely to stick to it. So yeah, I still don't get why I get so much pushback on it because it's so clear to me, but I understand how it can be a hard paradigm to grasp because when you're training, you're working hard. It's like the hustle grind mentality that we all have been forced to believe for so long. With the nutrition, abs are made in the kitchen. Like you're actively doing these, you're actively training, you're actively eating. But sleep, you're actively doing nothing, right? So it's like hard for people to like accept that like that's the key to their growth. But it needs to be talked about more, and more people would see more results if it was talked about more.
So what do you do for people who come into your program who are currently not sleeping as well? What are things you teach them about how to get more sleep?
Yeah. So number one is get on as similar of a sleep schedule as possible. So don't sleep in on the weekends. Don't go to bed late on the weekends. So I want you going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time Monday through Sunday. That's going to be the biggest thing because your body, you're a creature of habit, and so if we can get the body as consistently, if we can introduce consistently similar stimuli, the body's going to be quicker to adapt to it, right? So getting on a regular sleep schedule is going to be huge. Number two is save the bedroom for two things: sleep and sex, and that's it. So I say get the TV out of your bedroom, get the electronics out of your bedroom. Don't be eating in bed. Don't be reading in bed. Don't be studying in bed. Associate your bed with those two actions. And again, that way, when your body gets around the bed, it knows, okay, I'm either getting busy or I'm going to go to sleep. Okay. It's like when you go into the office, if you work in your office, you notice something in your psyche shifts. Okay. There's a shift, whether it's a good or a bad one, depending on like your level of work and kind of like how toxic your work environment is. It could be a good or a bad shift, but there is a shift. We want that same kind of shift when we go into the bedroom. Like when I walk into my office, boom, because I've associated my office not with gaming, not with playing around, it's with work. That's what my body knows is best. Okay. So associating the bedroom with those two things is going to be big. Number three is cool down. So it's been shown in studies the most optimal room temperature or the most temperature that you should be sleeping in is 66 degrees Fahrenheit. So cool it down. Get a fan on you. Put in a space cooler in your room if you need to. Right over here in Idaho, it's -3 degrees right now. So we open our window a little bit, right? So cooling down is going to be big for you. Number four is electronic light. So trying to minimize artificial light as much as you possibly can. That's going to be huge for you. I'd say at least 30 minutes before bed. I know that's tricky in our day and age. So the next alternative to that is getting blue light blocker lenses, not the clear ones. They have to be like the tinted lenses. Those ones work. Again, I threw a lot out there, but those are like the big ones that we can work on.
Love it. So recently you also hired a productivity coach to help with ADHD. So just curious, why did you decide to hire the coach and how has it helped you?
Yeah, man, I could talk for hours about this. So I was diagnosed with ADHD last year. And I'm very grateful that I got diagnosed with it, because I knew since I was a kid that something was wrong with me. But I think due to the own ignorance of my parents, they didn't want to accept that something was wrong with their child, because for some reason they think ADHD is like autism, but it's not. So I finally got diagnosed. And what I did was I actually turned to the medications to help with that. And what actually happened was I did worse. I didn't have more focus. I didn't have more productivity. I just felt off and just felt slow. So I stopped that and decided to turn to um, a professional who works in this field. So Dr. Chris, he is a neuroscience, neuro brain genius when it comes to this kind of stuff, working with neurodivergence and increasing their productivity and focus. And he works with a lot of like Fortune 500 executives and getting them to perform at optimal levels. So he's been a game changer. But the biggest thing that I've learned from him is we are actually working less. So I started working with him 3 months ago. And in these 3 months, this is the least amount of work that I've done. This is the most time that I've spent playing and taking breaks and recovering and going snowboarding and taking vacations. But I'm getting more done than I've gotten the last 10 years of running my own business. So it's been a crazy experience.
Wow, that's crazy. So let's expand on that. Like, what is one kind of belief that you used to have that you now have been completely shifted? I mean, obviously you kind of expanded on one there, but what is there like another kind of belief that's been shifted in you?
So the biggest thing for me is this hustle and grind mentality. Okay, so we as entrepreneurs are surrounded by these people on Instagram and social media who are like, oh, you can sleep when you're dead. You know, only poor people get 8 hours of sleep a night. Or, you know, if you're working 40 hours a week, you're not working hard enough, like all this bullshit. And the reality is that's not psychologically how it works. Um, you can only redline yourself for so long. You can only work so hard before you finally just burn out. And that was the case for me. I believed that I should be sitting at my desk and working for 12 hours a day. But in reality, when we actually looked at the data, I was only actually putting in about 4 hours of good, high quality, hard work a day. And then after that, I was burned out. I was fried. I couldn't do any more. So it's not because I'm lazy. It's not because I'm not working hard enough. It's not because I'm not an alpha. No, it's because I literally can't do any more. And so instead of beating my head against a wall, we just focus on integration. We focus on recovery. We focus on rest. And so now I work 4 or 5 hours a day. I clock out on Wednesdays and I clock out on Saturdays, and I take all of Sundays off. And I'm getting way more done now than I did before, because I abolished this whole bullshit mentality of grind harder, work harder than your competitor. No, your competitor is resting. Your competitor is recovering. Your competitor is sleeping in. That's why they're doing better than you. So yeah, that's probably the biggest paradigm shift.
I love that. And again, that's something that I, personally I've always struggled with as well. Is like you have to be working at all times, when in reality, is it actually productive work? So I can resonate with that too. And one other thing is, like, you obviously have kind of seen the rise yourself here. You went from, like, a couple of years ago, you were maybe more of a relative unknown in the fitness industry. Like, you had obviously been in the trenches for many years, but more recently, in the last couple of years, now you have like hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. So how have things like changed for you personally in that aspect?
Like, how has my personal life changed since this
Yeah,
happened?
like how does it feel? How do you feel like you went from like a relative unknown to now a lot more people know you? Like, how does that feel?
I haven't really noticed a difference. I I haven't noticed it. More people come up to me in the grocery store and at the gym, and you're like, "Whoa, you look like you lift." But like that's about it. Like my life is still the same. I'm still Braden. Um, I have more opportunity to work with more people. Like, I have some incredible networking opportunities happening this month because of my growth. But yeah, life is still pretty much the same.
Yeah, for sure. Not the life of the famous yet.
Yeah, not yet. I'm not a celebrity yet.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here, but I want to finish with two things. Obviously, there's been a lot of phenomenal information, and definitely if you've been listening to this, go and share it with a friend. Braden has provided a lot of high quality info to you on, sleep, stress, recovery, nutrition, so many things, and just health and general wellness. So, Braden, if people want to find out more about you, how can they find out more about you?
Yeah, so Instagram and TikTok, Look Like You Lift. That's where we're most active. We have a free Discord with over 1,600 members where we drop a lot of knowledge bombs. We do form checks. We do live Q&As over there. Yeah, those are the areas where you can get a lot of information. So
Love it. And then the last question I like to ask is, let's say like we're fast forwarding now, it's the end of your life. You've lived the life that you want to live. You've achieved everything that you wanted to achieve. How do you want to be remembered?
it's a deep one. It's a big one. I want to be remembered for the man who gave I want to be remembered for the man who gave men their life back. That's really, at the end of the day, that's the whole reason why I'm doing this. Yeah, looking good, being strong, that's cool. But I know the lessons that are learned from the refining fires of strength training. And those are lessons that change people's lives for the better. And that's what I want to be remembered for. And that's what I want people to experience, because you can be a better father, you'll be a better leader, you'll be a better role model. And I think this world needs more of that. I think this world needs more strong, resilient men. And I think the lessons through getting under the barbell will do that. So,
Love it. Love it. Well, wise words. Appreciate your time. And thanks for coming on the show.
yeah, man, of course.